Hello there, and welcome to A Film a Day, Award Season 2023, with me, Jordan Woodley. I'm only a few videos in, but I think it is about time that I talk about Avatar: The Way of Water. It's a difficult one because I think the culture and conversation around Avatar has shifted so dramatically that it does feel somewhat like it's creating that two-camp system, or either you absolutely love Avatar or you hate Avatar. You always loved the original Avatar, or you were part of the group of people who were slagging it because it was part of the 3D revolution. And it does feel like it's very hard to be balanced about it without feeling like you end up in one of two categories. I think what I've come to realise is that James Cameron, over the last 20 years, from The Abyss to Titanic to Avatar The Way of Water, really is a director who is not interested, or is not so interested in the core narrative that he is telling. The narrative needs to be there, but frankly, he, as a filmmaker, is more interested in immersion, is more interested in world building. And even when you take something like Titanic, which is a period drama, he's not as interested in the story that is being told in the foreground as he is in the construction of the world around it that all exists within the background. And I think we saw that evolution from The Abyss to Way of Water, where The Way of Water is a perfectly standard narrative. There isn't anything particularly unique. There are lots of plot holes and jumping in logic, but the truth is that James Cameron almost wants to dispose of them. He wants to put them in there because we need to be seeing something on the screen. But it's almost like classic silent film directors, where frankly, we should be watching the world around us and the characters interacting with the world around them. I think that Avatar is a hard one, the original, because to me, I never saw Avatar in the cinema, and full disclosure, because of my sight, I have no depth perception, so 3D has no real value to it, to me. But I appreciate the world building of the original Avatar film. Now, I never saw it in the cinema, and the thing that I associate with it, the negative association, is the fact that it brought in the 3D culture that led to a huge amount of retroactive 3D films that just felt flawed, and it felt like it was taking the cinema industry in the wrong direction. And it's very hard for me to disassociate from the film Avatar from that. And The Way of Water, similarly, is a greater advancement on that. And yet, with Avatar, the original, I cannot not admire the immersion and the work that was put in and the construction. And with Way of Water, as I say, it is an evolution of that construction and the consideration. And watching the film, I appreciate that it is the kind of world that is entirely animated. It is an animation, insofar as there is nothing real on screen. And yet, it feels like a world that you can touch, you can reach out and interact with. And that is to James Cameron's credit. That being said, I still struggle because I just am not engaged. There is part of me which just completely disassociates with it, that although I'm interested in seeing the world construction, I have no real interest in staying there a long period of time. And so therefore, 3 hours of spending time with characters that are very simple, with a very simple narrative, and a world that is interesting to view, but frankly, I'm not that engaged with. It is a hard sit to be 3 hours. I've mentioned before about the undisciplinedness, and I'm not saying that film length means that something is not disciplined, because I think it is. I think it is disciplined in terms of what James Cameron wants to show you is entirely intentional, every visual moment of it. But it is just not engaged. I do not engage with it. I do think it will do well in the effects category, in the visual effects and the sound. I think it will do well, but I do not think, the fact that it's nominated for Best Picture, and I very strongly believe it could win, but I just don't feel like it should, from my perspective. And to its credit, it brought in $2 billion worldwide. It is one of the biggest, most successful films of all time. It's in the top 5 most successful films of all time now. It has brought people back to the theatre, and that has to be respected. So regardless of my personal feelings about the film, ultimately, I respect the craftsmanship and I respect how it impacts cinema going. Thank you for joining me. Till next time.